Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's interview with the fantastic guests. Cannot wait to get her on. We're speaking about anxiety and panic attacks. It's going to be a Q&A. We're going to be speaking about all things anxiety recovery, anxiety journey, and it's fantastic. Lauren Summer. You may know her as a fantastic model, businesswoman, entrepreneur, you name it, she's tried it. So we will be chatting all things anxiety and panic, and it's going to be fantastic. So let's just wait for Lauren to come. Hopefully she accepts and we'll get this interview going, people.
Hello.
Hi, Lauren. I can't see you, but I can see you now. Hey.
There it is. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with the community and just to give an insight what your anxiety journey was like. I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this.
Of course, I appreciate you asking me. Any chance to talk about it and maybe even help one person. I'm in.
Yeah, that's what I saw. When I first saw that you were part of the community, I looked on your profile and I saw that you have these wonderful mental health check-ins with your followers on your stories. I think you've got it on your highlights still, haven't you? And it was great just seeing the questions, people opening up about the mental health to you. And I imagine just like how useful that was for them, I imagine it was just as useful for you as well, yeah?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I know one of the biggest things with mental health is that how alone you can feel. And I know that even talking about it with someone else, whether it's a stranger or a follower or a friend, makes me feel better. And also being on the receiving end, like seeing someone else talk about it makes me feel so seen and feel less alone. So there's comfort in that. And also, everyone has different tools for anxiety. Like I learn from other people, they can learn some from me. We can all take different tools, put in our toolkit for whenever we're feeling anxious. So it's really been really helpful for me and seemingly for all of my followers as well.
That's fantastic. And for people who may not be aware of the amazing work that you do, if you just give us a brief explanation about everything that you do and also your anxiety journey. So like when anxiety started to creep up and how it was through your childhood, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I model and run a digital magazine called Summer Magazine. And I've been wanting to model since I was young. I mean, I remember being super little, being in like the stores with my mom and being like, I want to be like those girls on the walls, I don't know what it was. It just seemed so confident. And so ever since I was little, I've been working towards that. So I remember being in high school and, doing photo shoots and just trying to like build a portfolio to be a model. And whenever I hit 15, I started to feel weird and I didn't know what it was. And it come to find out after multiple doctor visits and, feeling like I was dying, I was like, oh, you are diagnosed with severe, horrible panic disorder. And I was like, we have a face to the monster, so I've been doing that for 12, almost 13 years now. And it was really hard. I'd be lying if I said that there was a time in my early career that I was like, maybe I'm not going to be able to make it as a model. I can't drive to these photo shoots. I can't make it through a long day in the studio. Like this just isn't for me. But I come to find out that with a little bit of time and grace and learning and effort, you can do literally anything. So it's been a hard journey. But I did it, I did it. I
Yeah, fantastic.
Well for myself, but it's definitely been bumpy. It's been bumpy.
No, and I think that's fantastic as well. What you said regarding the modelling is that obviously a lot of people may have anxiety or other mental health issues, and knowing that you were able to go through and pursue a career that you really was a dream job of yours just gives inspiration and hope to others and who may have that same dream, but also may like not be willing to take the risk. Regarding that first time that you said, when you were 15, you started to get anxiety, you started to get panic. How did it affect you at the time? Did you start to avoid situations where panic attacks would occur, etc.?
Everything. I avoided everything. Everything was hard for me. I lived in a near like constant state of panic that was really hard. I mean, I would even dream and have panic attacks in my dreams. Like I couldn't get away from it. And I remember specifically I had a panic attack in a Target one time. I was looking for the Rocky Horror Picture soundtrack, and I was just back there in the section, and I was just like, I might pass out. And I was on the floor. We called an ambulance. And for the longest time, I was like, I'm not going into Target. Maybe it was the fluorescent lights. Maybe it was I don't know what it was, but I was like, I don't want to go back there because I don't want to feel that. And school was really hard. I was like flunking my classes. I, like broke up with my long-term high school boyfriend because like it was affecting my relationship, my friendships, even my relationships with my parents because they didn't understand it because they couldn't see it. And I couldn't get mad at them because, I'm like, how do I describe someone that's invisible? And I'm like, I swear I don't feel good. I know the blood test says I'm normal, but like,
yeah.
It was so hard. And I just remember just really struggling with, like we were saying earlier, like feeling so alone in it and just feeling crazy. Because, I'd go to the doctor or in the ambulance, they take your vitals and they're like, no, like you're fine. And I'm like, how? This doesn't make any sense as to how I'm fine.
No, I can really relate to your story, especially the in the shopping centre, because that's when I had a panic disorder. That's exactly the first place that was the trigger, and I think it is the fluorescent lights, isn't it? And just obviously the people around. And I did exactly the same thing. I started to avoid that situation because I thought wrongly that it was the shopping centre that was causing the anxiety. However, obviously we know the reason is that we're fearful of the anxiety and panic, so we want to avoid feeling like that again. So I can really relate to that. And like you said about the going to the doctors, you almost convince yourself that it's something seriously bad, don't you? I remember the first time I had a panic attack, I literally thought I was dying, like this feeling of impending doom. And it was crazy. And like you say, when you go to the doctor, you expect them to flag up something in your blood test. And then when they tell you, hey, well, no, it's this thing called anxiety.
Yeah.
It is crazy, isn't it?
Quick fix for this? Yeah, it's insane. I remember I'm sure you did all of the tests too, because you're just like, clearly this isn't just my brain. Like something is physically wrong with me because panic attacks manifest themselves in such an intense physical way that you're like, clearly something's wrong with my heart, or clearly I have like a brain tumor, or clearly something serious is going on. I got screened for everything. I did every test under the sun. I wore like heart monitors to school because, they were like, well, let's test your heart then. Tested everything. And then, finally I had one day where I had my doctor and she was like, I think that you just have like the most intense case of panic disorder we've ever seen. Respectfully, like, we're just going to deal with that for you. And I was like, okay. But it was nice to have an answer. But I remember being in the moment, being frustrated that it wasn't something that you could just fix. It wasn't surgery. It wasn't, like pill or therapy or like whatever. It was years and years and years of intense work, figuring it out. What medication is right for me? Do I need medication? What does yoga work? Does changing my diet work? So it's finally like I am now at a place for a couple of years now where I feel normal.
Yeah. And that's super important for people who are at the start of an anxiety disorder. Is like you say, you feel isolated, you feel trapped, and you feel like you're not going to recover, don't you? I think that's really important. And knowing and hearing stories like yourself that you have recovered or you're on the other side. And anxiety is never going to go away. It's an emotional response to fear, and it can be helpful in the correct situation. So if we go to step out in the road and like there's a bus coming and then we step back, that's anxiety that's saving our life. However, if we're in the middle of a modeling shoot and then we get anxiety, it can get overwhelming because there's no danger there. It's just that our mind is thinking that there's a danger there. So it's super important to be able to tell people that there is life after anxiety, after panic attacks. And I think that's really helpful, and I think it's a really good message that you're spreading. I have got some questions from the community. They did submit some fantastic questions, so I'm going to head over to them. So the first one, Lauren, is, do you remember the first time you had a panic attack? So I know we just went briefly on it. How did it feel? So do you remember the physical symptoms? Do you remember the emotional symptoms? And do you remember what you did in that specific time?
Yeah, so I don't remember specifically which one was my very first panic attack because I was having so many back to back at this time.
How many were you having a day, just out of interest?
I think it was one every couple of days.
Yeah.
And in my dreams, you'd wake up it was near constant. I wasn't having a panic attack. I was almost about to have one.
Yeah.
It It was so intense. So I do remember this one time I was at my mom's house, and, the stays with you, like this near death experience. Like, it's traumatizing, right? So I just started feeling that, that all over, tingly kind of shortness of breath, like something really heavy is on your chest. My hands and my feet would get so clammy, like it would fill up my shoes with like cold sweat. My stomach would get upset. The like convulsing, I would like start to convulse a lot. And I was just like, I don't feel so good. So I try to run away from it. So I was like, I'm going upstairs. Like I physically would try to like leave it behind myself. So I was walking up the stairs, and I remember, I don't know if it was just like the physical activity of walking up the stairs that set it off, but I opened up the door to my bedroom, and it was like I got hit with a car, and I was like, and I just didn't know. I like ran to the bathroom, and I was like putting water in my face, and I was just like, Mom! I was like, I didn't know what was going on, and I felt like I was dying. I was shaking. I barely remembered how I got from my bedroom to my bathroom, because it was just like adrenaline blackout. We called the fire department, like paramedics, and they like came up the stairs, and they were so sick. Like, I think that they helped me come down from my panic attack, realizing it. I will forever remember these men. And they just really, they like held me. They took like my vitals, and they were like, physically, like, you are okay. Like, I need you to know that like your heart rate's increased because you're anxious, but like your blood work's fine. You're like, you are okay. And I was just like, I needed to hear that I wasn't dying to help me stop feeling like I was dying, but it was so intense. And we don't talk about enough, like the anxiety hangover. After having a panic attack, I am out of commission for like 24 to 48 hours. You're just
it's so exhausting, right?
It takes a toll. It's like you ran a marathon. It's like that whole next day you're just like in a coma, just like no one talked to me, because your body just like, oh my God, it's a near death experience every single time. It's like, rightfully so, you're gonna feel that way. But it was intense. And then once you have your first panic attack, you never want to feel that way again. So you live in that constant fear of ever having to feel that way again.
Yeah, that's where panic disorder can really come in, because you start to avoid the situations and places where the panic attacks would occur, and that's where it can become a little difficult. And a lot of people fall into that trap, and it's very common in anxiety disorders. Regarding, obviously, you said, so you had it for quite a long time, like over 12 years, right? Over them 12 years, did you have like peaks and troughs? So did you have periods where there was like maybe not a panic attack in a week or 2 weeks or even a month?
Absolutely. I remember once I had started, I tried to do things more like the natural way. So, I was like doing no caffeine. I was taking sugar out of my diet, and I was trying to eat like healthier, and I was trying to do things a more natural way, do yoga, whatever. And then I realized like I think I needed some help. So my doctor put me on Lexapro, and Lexapro was so hard. So I'm the kind of person who, whenever I try new medication, I get every side effect that there is possible. So it was like, not only was I also like, having panic disorders, also like I was like nauseous, and I had brain zaps, and like my food like tasted like totally different. Like everything was just like so weird. And I was just like, why am I doing this to myself?
And did you also worry about the side effects as well?
Oh my God, the first time I ever took Lexapro, I had a full-blown panic attack in my living room. And my dad was like, you're okay, you're fine. And I was like, but I think it's messing me up, But I did. It took me years and years and years to kind of find like that base level of normalcy. But then to this day, I still have what I call breakthrough anxiety, which is where, one day you're just doing the dishes and you're like, oh my God, I know, like freaking out. But because I've had it for so long, I have my tools, whether it's like breath work or a distraction, or, with anxiety, you get really good at rationalizing your feelings and your thoughts. So out loud, I'll be like, I'm okay, I'm physically fine. This is anxiety. It's going to pass. You've made it through 100% of these. Like, you're good. But I definitely have had, years where I was coasting, but I also had like a couple years where I really wasn't. There was a time where my doctor had me on Lexapro. She had me on Buspar, and she had me on Klonopin. And if you're in this community, you might know how intense Klonopin is. And it was this slow downward hill towards me just like a zombie, and I was like, something doesn't feel right. And then one night my mom was talking to me, and it just goes and like it just goes down, and I was like, Mom, so we go to the ER, and it turns out that I got serotonin syndrome, which can be very common in people who take SSRIs.
And that can be really dangerous as well, right?
I almost died. So my medication were poisoning my bloodstream because my psychiatrist was so irresponsible, and she just, you know, was just like, here, take this, take this, take this. And it was poisoning my bloodstream. It ate away at my stomach lining. Like to this day, my stomach is still really sensitive because I just didn't listen to my inner, you know, monologue of like, maybe we shouldn't be on this much medication. So I think there's definitely a place for medication, you know, in the society world, of course. But then also doing, you know, like the inner work, like the talk, like the self-talk, the therapy, the whatever, like using both of those like in your toolkit. Oh my God, it's amazing. I've never been better, but it was really intense.
Yeah, I think that's important what you mentioned as well about a toolkit. Not everyone's recovery from anxiety is the same. Like medication might work for someone, but someone might go to the gym and exercise, and that'll really reduce their anxiety and help them. And that's really important that you've managed. And like you said, because you've been dealing with it for so long, you've really like sharpened them tools up, so you really know what tools to go to. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I found what works for me. And I just recently added a new one to my toolkit that I'm really excited about. There's this amazing girl, I saw her on TikTok, and she's called The Untamed Herbalist. And she preaches a lot about, well, holistic things, but also icing your vagus nerve. So getting like an ice pack and putting it on your chest or on like the back of your neck. And oh my God, I tell you, it stopped me feeling anxious in like 10 minutes. I was like, what is this? So now I'm using an ice pack. I'll do something like snack or like drink tea or just like an oral distraction of like food or drink. I've heard, you know, like sucking like a sour candy or something. I do like my CBD. I literally have like my CBD toolkits with me like everywhere. CBD has changed my life. And exercise. I've been exercising consistently. My heart rate going up has been a big trigger for me my whole life. So I have to like slowly, you know, ease my way into it, but I've never felt better. Exercise, good sleep, good diet, cutting down on caffeine, some CBD, and then things like icing the vagus nerve have like changed my life. I've never been in a better space.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, I've seen that you speak to your followers regarding the CBD, and that's really great because there's some more studies coming out of it as obviously more people are using it, and the experience from them is amazing. Like you said for yourself, you just said that it changed your life. So
everything. Yeah, I call it my EpiPen because I have multiple ones and I literally carry them in every single one of my just in case. Like for me, I get while I'm driving or something, so I'll get my little tincture while I'm like on the highway. Just cause, but it helps so much because I really just, for me personally, for someone else this could work, but for me personally, I want to avoid Klonopin since it was just so, you know, detrimental to me years ago. It's like for me, it's just one thing I realized like that work for me because now taking Klonopin makes me more anxious than it would, you know, for me. So I found that CBD helps. I bring it with me everywhere. It's a game changer. I'm like, I don't even know what this brand is. Like, not sponsored, but Papa and Barkley is the one I've been going to that I love.
So regarding, you said obviously your heart rate sometimes triggers the anxiety. How have you managed to cope with that? So are you able to do exercise now without that triggering anxiety? And if so, what techniques did you put in place?
Yeah, so for me, I'm really blessed. I have the most amazing trainer, Tia Lamberg, and she has changed my life. She is so, the first day meeting with her, like, I'm really afraid to do this because exercise is one of my biggest triggers, getting hot overheated and my heart rate going up. And that's what exercise is. So she really kind of like held my hand and was like, we're just going to do it super slow. And the next month do a little bit more. And it's really just about slowly easing yourself into it so that you find your threshold and you find what you're capable of and you find that, oh, maybe I can't do this, but I can do this instead. And just slowly taking your time and kind of exposing yourself to that a little bit, to be like, oh, I did that workout and I didn't die and I feel amazing and I have the best sleep that I've ever had. So really just slowly working your way into something new, especially like exercise. Oh my gosh.
A lot of people feel guilty, especially with exercise, because if you think about it, when you're exercising, your heart's racing, you're sweating, you can feel dizzy. These are all symptoms of anxiety. So for someone who's got high levels of anxiety, that can mimic the anxious response, which is obviously the response they're trying to get away from. So that can create more anxiety. Yeah.
I know it's really hard to at first like distinguish the two. But then it's again like rationalize. I'm like, okay, no, I'm working out I am trying to get my heart rate up, and just talking to yourself out loud and just kind of taking your time, stopping in between sets to breathe. Like, my trainer's amazing. She's like, this is like intuitive exercise. Like, go to where you know, feel comfortable and then stop, breathe. Like, we're not trying to like kill ourselves in the gym here. It's about health, not like overexerting yourself. So if you start to feel like, just take it easy, walk around, get some fresh air, come back, and like, you're capable. You can do it. Sometimes it takes you a little bit longer than others, and that's fine. It's not a
Yeah,
race.
no. No, that's wonderful. Next question is, do you think there's enough support for people who struggle with anxiety in the modeling industry? And if not, what do you think can be, be put in place?
Yeah, so I would think that like 10 years ago when I started, the answer would be absolutely not. You know, it was very much competitive. I was doing a lot of high fashion modeling as well, to where it's like, you know, if you didn't show up because you were anxious, they're like, okay, whatever, bye. We're just going to get the next, you know, pretty girl in line. And you're just like so replaceable that it was like you would almost feel guilty for missing something because, you know, they don't care. There's like, whatever, it's a job, it's transactional, bye, whatever. But now I think that in the past, even just like 5 years or so, like with influencers and like modeling and social media, it's kind of been people using their platform to be like, hey, this is a little left up. We're human beings too, you know, and just really creating that conversation that is so normal, especially in a career where you're under the public eye. You know, doesn't mean our jobs are harder than anyone else's, anything like that. But being under the public eye can be really stressful, but then also being open about that and just kind of finding that commonality between, you know, your followers and whatever. Like, this is so normal. So now there's more of that support, because I think just even anxiety and mental health in its own is just so much less taboo now. So 10 years ago, there was no support, and today there's definitely a lot of support. Like, people get it.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing what you said about it's like almost bridging a gap, isn't it, between social media and the main industry now. And that's fantastic to see. It's more of a personal approach. The next question is, have you ever had a panic attack whilst modeling? And if can you explain what happened? And were you able to continue, or did you have to like tell them to stop?
Yeah, I remember specifically there was a time I was doing runway for like a hair show. So it was really long hours. You get up early, you're there all day. It's like 13-hour days. You're like in your heels. It's just like physically taxing, right? But then also there's those nerves of I'm going to be on stage that are like exciting. But also, like you said, they mimic anxiety. So your heart rate's up and you're a little nervous. So I remember sitting in the hair chair, and they were doing my hair like right before this gig. And I was like, I cannot breathe. I think I'm going to die. I'm going to have a panic attack. I have to leave. And I got so lucky that my hairstylist working with me that day was like, I get panic attacks. Like, I have Xanax in my purse. If you need it, let me know. But I was like, no, I need a second. So I remember I walked outside, I grabbed some water. But I think what helped me the most was having those people around me to be like, I understand.
Yeah.
We're here for you. You're not crazy. This is normal. Like, this is a safe space. Every single person that I worked with that day, like, I'm still friends with them to this day. Good people. They understood. I think more than anything, just having someone understand and be like, no, like, it's okay. Like, that made me, I was like, I'm okay. I got it. I just needed to take a breather. I just needed to take the time that I needed. And I was back at it, and I finished the whole weekend.
And that's so important what you said about, because if you think about anxiety, we're always thinking inwards, aren't we? We're worrying about these physical symptoms. We're worrying about the irrational thoughts. Just getting it out in the open to someone next to you that you say, who's there to tell you that it's okay, really starts to reduce anxiety. And that's a real good tool, that. So the next question is, I really want to get into modeling, but I'm afraid my anxiety will ruin it. Should I pick another career path? Good question.
No.
Yes.
No, absolutely not. It could be any job. Your anxiety does not dictate your life. Your anxiety is going to be a part of your life, just in different facets. It might go away, it might get worse, whatever. It should not stop you from doing your dream job. I made it work. I got so, not even just lucky, but like, I am so blessed to be in the position that I am. But it shouldn't stop you from doing anything. You just have to maybe take it slower, or maybe at first do less jobs or whatever. But if you want to do it, honey, then do it. Be the best darn model you want to be. I think it made me a better model. I don't know. I think it made me, because it motivated me even more. I was like, I want to do this. I'm going to fight through this. I wanted to be a model since I was little, so I'm going to do it, gosh darn it. So it was really
Did
good.
you
You know?
did you ever have stages through it where you where it was overwhelming and you wanted to quit?
Oh my God, absolutely. Even, and I think it would be like no matter what job I had, I was just in like a rough space. Because in the beginning of modeling, I was also at a part-time job as well because you weren't getting paid. So I was a couple jobs, and it's hard for me to have a job in general. But I did. I kind of took that time. I took both of them for, but I didn't quit. I was like, I'm not going to give up because I don't feel well. I'm just going to pace it. I'm going to create boundaries with me and my career for my own mental health, because how can anyone expect me to show up to either job if I'm just totally burnt out? So I just kind of took a step back. And at first I felt guilty. I was like, I'm never going to get to where I want to be. And I was like, no, you're a human being. Take your time. It's going to be okay. So I just kind of took the time.
No, yeah, that's really great advice. What age were you when you were putting boundaries in place with your workplace? I mean, that's really advanced for someone so young. Like, how old were you when you were starting to do that?
Oh my God, 17?
Were you?
Maybe, maybe 18. Yeah, I think that having intense anxiety since you're little kind of ages you a little bit. You're like, okay, I'm like 15 years old and I've already, experienced like a near-death experience every day. I'm a little more, you mentally, you grow really fast and you have a lot of these internal conversations with yourself and you realize that you got to do what's best. And sometimes it's okay to like disappoint people, because if they don't understand it, that's not on them. Yourself, because how can you show up for anyone else if you can't even show up for yourself?
Yeah, couldn't put that any better myself, Lauren. The last question from the community is, if you could redo your childhood and not have to go through the anxiety disorder, would you do it, or do you believe it's helped you become who you are today?
I wouldn't change a damn thing. There is no way. I wouldn't change a single second. Now, in the moment, I would have felt differently. If you asked me this, I was 15 or 16, it would have been absolutely, this is the worst thing. This is so hard. No one should go through this. But now looking at it now, I'm like, I am the most mentally strong person that I know. I feel like I can get through anything. I can get through any hardships, whether it's mentally, physically. I'm like, I am the strongest person, and I'm so proud of myself for pushing through, because there were times where I was like, I can't do this and I want to give up. Like, no one should have this low quality of life. But gosh darn it, I pushed through it. So strong. Like, rocket my career because I had that motivation. I realized I could do it. If I could talk myself off of this intense attack ledge, oh my God, the world is my oyster. I wouldn't change a single thing.
No, that's fantastic. And I've asked so many people a similar question as well, and they all say the same. And I would say the same as well, because it really defines you as a person. Like you said, if you're going toe to toe with fear every day for a long time, there is literally, well, there's not many things you can't do, is there? It's people going through anxiety disorders are the strongest people that I've ever met.
That's what
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. A lot of people, like, maybe like if you're watching this and you have anxiety or depression and you think that it makes you less than, honey, it is a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
It is a superpower. Like, you are just being tested so that you can be the strongest version of yourself. Like, you're gonna come out on the other side of this so like mentally strong and swole. Like, you're gonna, there's nothing you can't do. I can't wait for you to get there, because it feels so good.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I always say that as well, that can't wait to sing from the rooftops your anxiety recovery story. Because anxiety recovery, it doesn't mean never to feel anxious again. It means that if you feel anxious, you're not bothered. You know that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's always going to feel uncomfortable, but you know it's not going to harm you. And like you said earlier, you know that you've got the right tools in place to help you in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was fighting off a panic attack, falling asleep like last week. But I got up, I did some breath work, I had some, midnight cereal, and I just kind of, and calm down. I had some CBD, and an hour later I was in bed. Meanwhile, 10 years ago I would have been like, I'm dying and I'm alone, and like, what happens if I die? No one's fine. You know what I mean? Like, your brain just goes, it means it's cereal time. So I just went upstairs, I just kind of chilled, I took it easy, and like you said, I've got my tools, and you know how to deal with it, and becomes it's still a huge part of your life because it makes you who you are, but it becomes like a more rare occurrence that it's like, you don't have to worry about it anymore. I no longer fear having a panic attack.
And that's super important what you said as well about getting anxiety while you're sleeping. That's a question that we get asked a lot. A lot of people say, well, what can I do? How do I get to sleep? Well, the one thing that you're not going to be able to do when you're feeling anxious is sleep, because your body is on high alert. It's looking for a danger. So go and get yourself that cereal. Go and read a book. Go and watch something. And like you say, let it reduce itself, yeah?
Exactly. Sometimes you kind of have to let it run its course sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think scariest part of anxiety is letting go and letting it take hold sometimes. It's like just breathe through it, like just let it pass. You can do things like icing or whatever, but you just have to just kind of, like push it out. It's there, but it's gonna be gone. And I think once you accept that, it goes away. It goes away.
Yeah.
It's almost like stop fighting. It's like they say with quicksand, right? Like you struggle, they say you're supposed to you get more stuck, and once you relax, you float to the top. It's kind of like that with anxiety too. You just
no, definitely.
Be okay, and then you're like, oh my god, turns out I'm okay. I'm gonna go back to bed now.
No, that's fantastic. And Lauren, thank you so much for spending the time with the community. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy with all the work that you're doing. You should be proud of yourself, because I mentioned to you before, honest to God, you're making such a difference with your platform and your followers, and that's something that you should be really, really proud of, because you're literally changing and saving lives. So that's amazing.
You're gonna make me cry.
Is there anything that you're working on, or where can people find you on Instagram? I know your magazine as well. How can they find that?
Yes. So I'm just Hey Lauren Summer on everything. I do Twitch. I play video games. My fellow nerds come hang out. I'm starting a channel. And I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter all the time. And I love talking to my fans. Especially about anxiety. If you guys have any questions, I'm well seasoned in that. And I try to message as I can, because I know that a little conversation can help as well. But gosh, thank you so much for having me on here. Anytime you want to chit chat, you let me know.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lauren. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Take care.